In 1973, a nearly 90-year-old man was found floating in the Elizabeth River behind his humble home. Despite living without running water or electricity, he left behind a fortune worth millions in today's money to local charities. This man, known as August Cap Coleman, wasn't just an eccentric old man. He was the legendary figure who revolutionized American tattooing and whose bold designs still influence tattooers today. From carnival attractions to sailor's art, from quirky living habits to priceless museum collections, this is the story of a man they call the Godfather of American Tattooing. Today, we deep dive into one of tattooing's most influential yet mysterious figures. By the end of this video, you'll understand how one man's distinctive style forever changed the art of tattooing. Also, why museums today preserve his work and the curious contradictions that made him a legend. Now let me ask you a question. What kind of person becomes a tattoo legend while living like a hermit? And how does someone working in a small shop in Virginia influence an art form for generations? You'll want to stick around to discover the mysterious dragon design that became Coleman's signature and why it combines elements that no one had ever put together before. August Bernard Coleman was born October 15th, 1884, near Cincinnati, Ohio. While most tattoo artists from this era have well-documented backgrounds, much of Coleman's early life remains a mystery. His family reportedly had German roots, with his father Anthony being born in the United States and his grandparents John and Anna from Prussia. Now here's where things get interesting. Coleman himself claimed that his father was a tattoo artist, potentially making him a second-generation tattooer. However, there's a fascinating twist. Paul Rogers, who worked closely with Coleman years later, disputed this claim, suggesting that Coleman may have fabricated this part of his origin story. What seems more likely, based on historical records, is that Coleman's family had connections within the carnival circuit, which probably sparked his early interest in tattooing. Those carnivals in the late 1800s, early 1900s were a hotbed for tattoo culture, with tattooed attractions drawing crowds and artists finding steady work. Now, have you ever even wondered how someone becomes a tattoo artist in the early 1900s? There were no tattoo schools or YouTube tutorials back then. For Coleman, his path to tattoo mastery began with an apprenticeship that would ultimately change the course of tattoo history. But what's even more interesting is how he went from being a student to becoming the most famous tattooer in America. And it all involves unexpected carnival connections that we'll explore shortly. By 1912, Coleman's interest in tattooing led him to seeking formal education. The education came from a well-respected tattoo artist at the time named Jesse Frederick Professor Barber. Barber had operated a tattoo shop on Vine Street in Cincinnati. Now, this wasn't a casual decision. A mention in the Billboard from March 1912 reported that the new tattoo wonder A.B. Coleman, last season from the Smith Grader shows, is spending the winter at J.F. Barber's shop in Cincinnati, Ohio. During his apprenticeship with Barber, Coleman not only refined his tattooing skills, but also received more tattoos himself, becoming heavily tattooed from head to toe. The transformation into a tattooed man would later serve him well in his carnival career. Coleman would later adopt the professor moniker himself when establishing his own studio. He was following in his mentor's footsteps while also lending an air of professionalism in a field that was still considered to be part of the sideshow world. There are also accounts suggesting that Coleman learned machine techniques from other artists of the era, with one source noting that Frank Martin, who taught Harry Lawson, who taught Coleman how to set up machines and lay solid black. This technical knowledge about tattoo machines would become critically important years later when he mentored other artists. But before Coleman would become a stationary tattoo artist, he first took a detour that few modern tattoo artists will ever experience. He became a carnival attraction himself, and what's truly fascinating is his carnival experience shaped his approach to tattooing in ways that would revolutionize the art form. The question is, what exactly happened during those carnival years that transformed Coleman from an apprentice to a master? We'll jump into that next. Before establishing himself as a tattoo legend, Coleman spent several formative years working various carnival shows. But here's what makes this part of the story so unique. He wasn't just tattooing at the carnival. He was actually a tattooed attraction who billed himself as the human picture gallery. Embracing his colorful background, Coleman enlisted with various carnival shows, including Sheashley shows, Greater Smith shows, and John J. Jones, spending about 8 years traveling with these shows. During this period, he would display his heavily tattooed body as an attraction, while also offering his services as a tattoo artist to carnival workers and visitors. Coleman's personal tattoos were extraordinary at the time. He had a large battleship on his stomach, an unfurled U.S. flag on his chest, the crucifixion of Christ between two kneeling angels on his back, and even decorative socks that were tattooed extensively on his legs. These weren't just random designs. They were a walking portfolio as he performed as a tattooed attraction. The carnival environment taught Coleman important lessons about attracting customers, creating bold designs visible from a distance, and understanding what images resonated with the public. These skills would prove valuable later when he would open up his own shop. But what caused Coleman to leave this nomadic lifestyle behind? The answer lies in a strategic move that would cement his legacy, a move to Norfolk, Virginia. This is where this story takes a fascinating turn, because the timing and location of this move were no accident. In fact, the decision that Coleman made would put him in the right place at the right time to become a tattoo legend, but it also led to unexpected challenges that almost ended his career. In 1918, recognizing the influx of military personnel due to World War I, Coleman made what would prove to be his most consequential move of his career. Norfolk, Virginia had become a major naval port with a newly established naval base that brought thousands of servicemen to the area. The Billboard even reported at the time that Coleman was laying the foundation for a fortune, tattooing soldiers and sailors. He will not be with the circus this year. Talk about a career pivot. Coleman established his tattoo parlor at 427 East Main Street in Norfolk, an area known for burlesque theaters and clubs like the Gaiety Theater that were frequented by sailors. His location was strategic, as a constant stream of sailors made Norfolk a tattooing hub. Coleman's business cards reflected his confidence, simply stating Coleman's Place, Main Street, Norfolk, Virginia, without needing a specific address, as his reputation made his shop easy to find. Imagine being so famous you didn't even need to list your address. During the World War II years, Coleman's business boomed as thousands of servicemen sought tattoos as souvenirs, good luck charms, or symbols of their naval service. His shop walls were plastered with thousands of designs, many of his own creation, ranging from Chinese characters to patriotic imagery that appealed to his military clientele. During an interview with Sailor Eddie, which you can find here, Eddie told the story of Coleman marking all of his tape with "Tattooed by Coleman" right down the line. That way, any artwork that went out the door was bandaged up, and because he wrote his name on the tape, people would see where that tattoo was done. That, my friends, is pure genius. While Coleman's business location was brilliant, what truly set him apart from other artists was his distinctive style. These designs would become so influential that museums still preserve them today. But what made Coleman's artwork so special that it would change tattooing forever? And which of his designs became the most iconic? We're going to uncover those secrets next. Coleman developed a distinctive tattoo style characterized by bold lines, excellent shading, and high-quality work that stood above his contemporaries. His approach to tattooing was not only artistic, but practical, understanding that tattoos needed to look good not only up close, but also from a distance. He is noted as saying that you should be able to know what a tattoo is from across the street. His most famous design would undoubtedly be the powerful Coleman dragon. This wasn't just any dragon. It was a stylized combination of elements from Chinese dragons and American traditional tattooing. What made this design so revolutionary was how it blended these different influences into something uniquely American. To our knowledge, this is one of the earliest existing examples of this fusion of styles that would later define American traditional tattooing. Beyond the dragon, Coleman was also known for several other iconic designs. Eagles with bold, patriotic styling that became a reoccurring motif. Battleships with detailed depictions of Navy vessels that were particularly popular with his sailor clientele, including American flags and other patriotic symbols. And what he called decorative socks, which were ornate patterns that were tattooed directly to the legs. And of course, religious imagery that included crosses and other biblical scenes. Coleman's approach to tattooing was also refreshingly practical. In some cases, he would only use black and red ink, telling servicemen during World War II that other colors, especially green, which was difficult to work with at the time, would have adverse reactions to inoculations. For American flags, he knew that the pelican ink he used would turn blue under direct sunlight, creating the proper coloring over time. Coleman's distinctive style would go on to influence tattooers for generations, but perhaps none more directly than Franklin Paul Rogers, who would work alongside Coleman for a crucial 5 years. Their relationship was complex yet fascinating and reveals a side of Coleman's personality that few ever got to see. In fact, the story how they met involves a sailor who unknowingly connected two of the most important figures in American tattooing history. Coleman's most famous apprentice was Franklin Paul Rogers, who worked with him from 1945 to 1950. Their partnership began in an unusual way. Coleman first became aware of Rogers' work when a sailor came into the shop one day. Rogers would later explain the story saying, Coleman would always say to sailors, "You got some nice work there," or "You got some lousy work there." And this sailor had some of my work. And Coleman said, "Who did that?" The sailor said, "Some guy from South Carolina named Rogers." Impressed by what he saw, he invited Rogers to come up to Norfolk to work with him. The Tattoo Archive describes their partnership, stating, Coleman was already a legend in the tattoo world, and coming to work for him was like a young basketball player to be on the team with Michael Jordan. But here's where the story gets particularly interesting. Despite recognizing Coleman as one of the greatest tattooers of the time, Rogers had mixed feelings about his mentor personally. Rogers described Coleman as being a people hater and a very selfish guy. This reveals the complex personality behind the legendary tattooist, who could be difficult to work with despite his immense talent. During Paul's apprenticeship with Coleman, Rogers learned valuable techniques, particularly regarding tattoo machines. Rogers later shared that prior to working with Coleman, he had to learn everything by trial and error. But under Coleman's tutelage, he gained significant knowledge on machine construction and repair. Coleman established what would become known as the Coleman School of Tattooing, which remains influential today. His impact extended well beyond those he directly mentored, inspiring legendary tattoo artists like Sailor Jerry and countless other traditional American tattoo artists. But just as Coleman's influence was reaching its peak, his career faced an unexpected challenge that forced him to make a major life change. This pivotal moment would reveal the fragility of his business and the resilience that characterized his life. What happened next also exposed the strange contradictions of a man who lived like a pauper while secretly amassing a fortune. In 1950, after 3 decades of success in Norfolk, Coleman faced a professional setback. The Norfolk City Council passed Ordinance Number 15668, declaring tattooing illegal in the city. This forced Coleman and other tattoo artists to go across the Elizabeth River to a town called Portsmouth, Virginia. After the ban, Coleman reportedly worked for Eddie Peace's studio in Portsmouth, going on to continue his art despite the setback. Coleman's wife Lena passed away in 1956, adding personal loss to his professional challenges. What makes Coleman's later years particularly fascinating are the eccentric habits he developed. Despite his success as a tattoo artist, Coleman was known for his frugal, some would say, extreme lifestyle. He lived in a house without electricity and running water, using an outhouse and bathing in the river behind his home. He was also known for eating unlabeled canned food just to save some money. Another eccentric habit that was discussed during the Norfolk Tattoo Convention, a lecture was done by Chuck Eldridge, and he discussed how at 5 o'clock on the dot, Coleman would close up the shop. It didn't matter if he was in the middle of tattooing or not. He would stop, tell the client, "You got to come back tomorrow, or I'll see you the next time you're in town," and he would go home and eat dinner with his wife. October 20th, 1973, just days after his 89th birthday, Coleman's life came to a tragic end. His body was found in the Elizabeth River behind his home. The circumstances suggest that he either hit his head while he was fishing or bathing and then drowned. But the most surprising revelation came after his death. Despite his frugal lifestyle, Coleman had amassed a small fortune from his tattooing and savvy business investments. Having no children and his wife passing years earlier, he left his money to several charities, including the Virginia School for the Blind, the Norfolk United Fund, the Tidewater Lions Club, and St. Mary's Infants Fund. This generous bequest revealed a softer side to Coleman's complex personality and showed his concerns for vulnerable populations despite his reputation as being a people hater. But Coleman's legacy lives on in another surprising way, through various museum collections that house his original designs and equipment. These preserved artifacts provide a fascinating window into his artistic process and reveal details about his work that even seasoned tattoo artists might not know of. The most significant collection is found at the Mariners Museum in Newport News, Virginia. One of the most fascinating pieces in the collection is a tattooed figure that belonged to Coleman, sometimes called Battleship Kate. It's a papier-mâché figure covered in Coleman's tattoo designs that was featured in the front of Coleman's shop window. The Mariners Museum curator has noted, "Our Coleman materials are one of the most popular and requested collections for both private viewings and for loan to other institutions. This demonstrates the continuing interest in Coleman's work decades after his death." Beyond the Mariners Museum, Coleman's work can also be found at the Daredevil Tattoo Museum in New York City. Their collection includes artifacts belonging to co-owner Brad Fink's collection. It features original artwork by Coleman and other tattoo pioneers like George Burchett and Sailor Jerry. If you can ever get to Daredevil in New York City, I can highly recommend it. It's an amazing display of tattoo history. The preservation of Coleman's flash sheets, equipment, personal items provide an invaluable resource for understanding the development of American tattooing in the early 20th century. His original electric tattooing machine, hand needles, and business cards all tell the story of how tattooing evolved from a carnival attraction to a respected art form. These museum collections reveal not just the artistic output of Coleman, but also his business practices, technical innovations, and cultural context in which he worked. They stand as a testament to his significance in the history of American tattooing and ensure his influences continue to inspire new generations of tattoo artists. August Cap Coleman lived a life of fascinating contradictions. A master artist that influenced generations, yet remained personally reclusive. A shrewd businessman who accumulated wealth while living with basic modern comforts. A people hater whose work connected with thousands and who ultimately left his fortune to help others. His bold, distinctive tattoo style, characterized by strong outlines, solid color fields, and iconic imagery, established the foundations of American traditional tattooing. From the Coleman dragon to eagles, ships, and other patriotic designs, his artwork captured the imagination of sailors, soldiers, and civilians alike. Through his direct mentorship with Paul Rogers and his indirect influences on countless other artists, Coleman created a lasting legacy that continues to shape tattooing today. The preservation of his work in museum collections ensures future generations can study and appreciate his contributions to this art form. So next time you see an American traditional tattoo with bold lines and vibrant colors, remember August Cap Coleman. If you enjoyed this deep dive into tattoo history, please hit the like and subscribe button for more stories of other influential artists. Leave a comment below and let me know what other tattoo artists you would like me to cover. Until next time, I'm Buck. This is Tattoos in Review. Thank you for watching. And if you want to see another video right now, make sure you click this video right here. Peace.